Conversations with Azu Ishekwele.
Welcome to another episode of Deepening the Conversation, for our interactive segment of Conversation with Azu, a weekly diary on life and politics, published on the back page of Leadership newspaper. Our column today is titled Faye and France, When the Tire Meets the Road. And the author, Azu Ishekwele, is with me in the studio to discuss the happenings in Senegal, Africa's beacon of democracy that just lately produced one of its youngest presidents in contemporary times. You're welcome to the studio, Azu.
Thanks for having me, Julius. Nice to be here. Okay.
Where the tire, or when the tire meets the road, what are you inferring?
Well, it's a metaphor, isn't it? The tire meets the road when politics is over and then it's time for governance. It's actually it's a metaphor that describes point of activity, point of action.
Okay, like we say in Nigeria, hit the ground running.
Well, in a way, when the tire meets the road, is actually the moment of action. The moment of action. That's what that metaphor sort of describes. Yes.
Faye and France. And one of the questions you posed is France. You didn't post. It's an inference you made. Mm-hmm. Has France become some sort of metaphor for underdevelopment?
Well, yes, unfortunately, that has been the case, especially in the last 5 to 10 years. There has been significant agitation, especially across Francophone West African countries, about the role of France in the politics of these countries, and especially in the economic development or underdevelopment of these countries. I think a significant turning point you may remember was when there was this lady who called France out. I can't remember her name now. She called France out over the situation where the treasury of a number of African countries, about 14 of them or so, their treasuries are tied to their economies, or their currencies are tied to the French treasury. And that was really a moment. It was a moment when, not that people didn't know what was happening, but she did it in such a way that the continent, and even outside the continent, people began to pay serious attention about what was happening in the Francophone West African countries. Of course, you know that in the last couple of years, when there has been a series of coups, the people who plotted the coup have over and over again, whether it's in Mali or it's in Guinea or it's in Burkina Faso or in Niger, they have cited complications in their relationship with France as a major factor in the underdevelopment and retrogression of these countries. So yes, France has, in recent times especially, been a major source of concern, especially its relations with Francophone West Africa. And we also again saw that, of course, in the speech of Faye, the new president of Senegal, on the 2nd of April, when he promised to reset Senegal's relationship with France. And I thought that this will be another good moment to reflect, not just on Senegal's relationship with France, but also to give some historical context to France's relationship with Senegal and a number of West African countries as well.
Would you say Faye was hitting on or took advantage of the populism, the note already set in the 3 Sahelian states you once described as delinquent?
The delinquent.
Was he actually drawing something? Because the anti-French rhetoric has gained currency so much that it seemed to have aided him into winning the popular vote.
Yes, you're right that rhetoric has gained currency, especially, as I said, in recent times. And well, it's also not unlikely that rhetoric played a significant role in how we emerge. But also remember that Senegal is one country in West Africa where you can stand as an independent candidate. So that sort of helped him as well. Also, the way that former President Macky Sall ended was not good at all. Was not good for him. Was not good for the country, and to think that this was a man who started full of problems. I guess that Senegalese just said, you know what, enough is enough. So I think it was a cocktail of a number of factors, and the French, the relationship with France was one of them. Then, of course, the way that Macky Sall ended. But as I also argue, there's nothing that France or any other colonial master has done significantly in any country where they have colonized, where they have been a dominant force, without the active participation and sometimes complicity of the elite in these countries. And Senegal obviously is not an exception.
And you seem to be saying, and very significantly too, that Faye would have to work with France, and whether he likes it or not.
Yes, the largest exporter to Senegal as we speak, even on the day he was making that recent inaugural speech, is France. France exports medicines, exports food, exports all sorts, equipment for technology. French companies French firms are the biggest in the banking and telecom sectors. France has such a stranglehold, such a dominant presence in the Senegalese economy that to reset will require some sort of careful planning. You can't do all of this on French food, French water, we really have to find a way to reset. And I think that it's important because the thing about presidents or politicians emerging is that as soon as you emerge, the voters begin to, population begins to expect, oh, he said he was going to do ABC, so when is it going to happen? So it's important for him to calibrate the decisions or actions he's going to take in such a way that that Senegal itself doesn't become worse off. Because as you know, critically also, France is a member of CFA, the CFA franc zone. And so the currency of Senegal is tied to French, to the French economy and to the French currency as well, the French treasury. So it's not a walk in the park, certainly.
And as I read your article, I began to think, can any African head of state do something radical? Could they just wake up and with one fell swoop decide that they don't want the CFA franc as their national currency anymore? What do you foresee happening?
Well, it is not what they can or cannot do. It is whether they can, whether they are prepared for the consequences. And the consequences will be huge because once you do that in an interconnected world, such as you're sending a very radical signal to investors, to other countries, and the impact of that will be quite major. But I think it's also important to keep in mind that the Senegalese economy is changing slowly in terms of foreign interest and investment in the country. China is coming up quite strong. Russia is coming up quite strong. India is also a major player, and of course Nigeria as well. So these are factors that the new government will need to sit down, reevaluate, and then see how, as we say in Nigeria, when you are eating a hot plate of soup, you start from the edges. You don't just plunge right in the middle. You get your fingers burned.
All right, thank you very much. This is a good place to stop this conversation for now. And for more of these, visit our social media handle, subscribe at azuishekwene.com to deepen the conversation. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Azu.
Thanks for having me once again, Julius. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Conversations with Azu Ishekwene.